Stop. Mercury. The closest planet to the Sun. David has a choice of deaths here. Does he land on the side facing the Sun? Or the side facing away? Let's choose the sunlit side, where the surface temperature reaches 427 degrees Celsius, 800°F. That's hot enough to melt lead. Before David can even process the breathtaking horror of the oversized sun, the heat begins its work. The radiation from the sun, unfiltered by any meaningful atmosphere, begins to shred his DNA. But that's a slow death he won't have time for. The intense heat would flash boil the moisture in his skin and organs. David wouldn't just burn. He would be cooked from the inside out in less than 2 seconds. A silent, instantaneous cremation on the solar system's hottest anvil. Next, we visit Earth's twin sister, Venus. This is a family resemblance you want no part of. The air here is almost entirely carbon dioxide, and the atmospheric pressure is over 90 times that of Earth's. This is the equivalent of being nearly a kilometer deep in the ocean. The moment David arrives, he would be crushed into a space about the size of a shoebox. His bones would shatter. His lungs would implode, and his body would be flattened into a gruesome pancake of flesh and fabric before he could even register the planet's other horrors. But what if he could somehow survive the pressure? The air itself would kill him. The temperature is a uniform 465 degrees Celsius, 869°F, even hotter than Mercury, and the clouds rain sulfuric acid. David would be simultaneously crushed, roasted, and dissolved. Venus isn't a planet. It's a high-pressure oven filled with acid. Ah, Mars, the great hope for humanity's future. But for an unprotected David, it's a cold, swift end. The first thing he'd notice isn't the cold, it's the error, rather, the complete lack of it. The Martian atmosphere is 100 times thinner than Earth's. Taking a breath is impossible. The air would be ripped from his lungs in a violent exhalation. But that's just the start of a truly bizarre death. The low pressure would cause the liquid in his body to boil. Not from heat, but from the lack of air pressure holding it in a liquid state. The saliva on his tongue, the tears in his eyes, and the thin layer of moisture on his skin would all begin to fizz. This phenomenon, called ebulism, would cause his body to swell up to twice its normal size. But his skin would be elastic enough to prevent him from popping. He would remain conscious for about 15 seconds before the lack of oxygen renders him unconscious, leading to a cold, silent death by asphyxiation in about 90 seconds. We now leave the rocky planets behind and head for the gas giants. First up, the king, Jupiter. There's no surface to stand on here. For David, his journey starts with a fall. He'd plummet through the upper layers of ammonia clouds, experiencing winds over 500 kilometers per hour. The sheer force would be like being in a perpetual F5 tornado. As he falls deeper, the pressure increases relentlessly. At about 120 km down, the pressure is immense, and the temperature is hotter than the surface of Venus. David, long dead from a combination of asphyxiation and the sheer violence of the winds, would be compressed and incinerated. Saturn is similar to Jupiter, but with a twist. The fall, the winds, the crushing pressure, it's all here. But Saturn offers a more poetic end. As David's body plummets through the atmosphere, the immense pressure could theoretically break down the carbon atoms from his incinerated form. Scientists theorize that deep within the atmospheres of Saturn and Jupiter, the conditions are right for carbon to be squeezed into graphite and then into actual diamonds. It's a morbidly beautiful thought. The very atoms that once made up David could become part of a diamond hailstorm. raining down through the depths of Saturn for eternity. Finally, we reach the ice giants, Uranus and Neptune. Their deaths are swift, brutal, and unimaginably cold. The upper atmosphere of Uranus is the coldest in the solar system, plunging to -224 degrees Celsius, -371 Dufour F. For David, death would be near instantaneous. The moment he arrives, the cold would flash freeze him solid. His nerve endings wouldn't even have time to send a pain signal to his brain. He'd become a human-shaped statue of ice, falling through the methane clouds. On Neptune, it's a similar story, but with an added horror. The fastest winds in the solar system, reaching up to 400 kilometers per hour. Before he could freeze, David's body would be torn apart by supersonic winds, a blizzard of ice crystals, and ammonia. A brutal, violent end in the dark, cold depths of the outer solar system.